the Court of Criminal Appeals issued a stay of your execution for Wednesday.
Are you serious?
That is the moment Melissa Lucio found out she would not be put to death today. The mother of 14 children was convicted of killing her 2-year-old daughter, Mariah, 15 years ago. A ruling by the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals delays Lucio's execution this morning. We look at what comes next in this case.
And we've reported that Melissa Lucio would have been the first Latina executed by the state of Texas. But there's also the case of Josefa Rodriguez, also known as Chapita, who was reportedly executed in the 1860s in San Patricio County. We're going in depth into both cases. We'll discuss the history of the Texas death penalty and what's next for Lucio. Chris 6 News Sunrise starts right now.
This is Chris 6 News Sunrise.
Good morning y buenos dias, Crystal Ben. Welcome to Chris 6 News Sunrise. Thanks for starting your day with us on this Wednesday, and I'm Paulo Salazar.
I am Sierra Pizarro. Paulo, you know the family and friends of Melissa Lucio are breathing a big sigh of relief.
Stay of execution granted. Yes, yes, yes.
Shock, hugs, and tears from Lucio's family down in Harlingen after they heard about her stay of execution. You're watching it right there.
After 15 years on death row, Lucio will live to see another day. Monday is when the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals granted that stay. Now, Lucio was convicted of capital murder in 2008 for killing her 2-year-old daughter, Mariah Alvarez, in 2007. Now, her family and supporters feel she was wrongly convicted.
A petition with at least 65,000 signatures was delivered to the Cameron County District Attorney's Office in Brownsville Friday. Petitions were also taken to the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles and to Governor Greg Abbott in Austin Monday.
Now, this is years in the making. Supporters have long pushed for Lucio's scheduled execution to be halted. The case now has the nation's attention, catching the interest of celebrities like Kim Kardashian.
Here's what happens now. A Cameron County court will host a new hearing and look at new evidence. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, Lucio submitted court statements from forensic experts that Mariah, her daughter, had a medical condition which caused her to be an unsteady walker and died after falling down the stairs at their home. Lucio also presented evidence that abusive police interrogation is what forced her to falsely say she caused Mariah's death.
Lucio was set to be put to death by lethal injection this evening had her execution not been temporarily suspended. Now, she would have been taken here to this chamber in the Huntsville unit. Lucio would have been strapped down on that gurney and injected with one drug called phenobarbital. Now, according to the National Library of Medicine, this drug mainly affects the nervous system. At low doses, it works as a sedative. At higher doses, it causes a coma.
Well, myth or fact, Lucio would have been labeled as the first Latina executed in Texas. But after our recent reporting of her case, we got a call into the newsroom from a viewer telling us about a woman named Chipita. Some consider her story a legend. Our Sunrise reporter Victoria Balderrama is live in San Patricio County, where local history marks Chipita as the first Hispanic woman executed here in Texas. Victoria, what have you discovered?
Good morning, Sierra. I'm in San Patricio this morning off of marker 4201. This is Main Street, and this is a historical marker where I'm standing. If you could see behind me, this is the San Patricio County Courthouse, at least a replica of what it was in the 1800s. But what we do want to talk about is this marker right here. It tells the story of Josefa Rodriguez, also known as Chipita, and there's a reason that it's here.
The reason that we know about this is that she proclaimed her innocence from the minute that she was accused all the way until her execution. Her last words are reportedly, I'm not guilty.
The marker names Josefa Rodriguez, who was hanged in 1863 for the murder of John Savage, though the trial's fairness was questioned because some members of the jury, quote, had problematic personal histories. 159 years later, as the execution date for Melissa Lucio approaches, I went out to learn more. So to clear this up, I spoke to Beatriz Alvarado. She's a professor of psychology and the chair of the social sciences department at Del Mar College. She explains why technically Lucio would have been the first Hispanic woman to be executed by the state of Texas.
Starting in 1923 is when the state of Texas started doing executions. Prior to that, every county was responsible for their own executions. And that's why there isn't necessarily a historical sense that the state of Texas was responsible for Ms. Rodriguez.
Chipita will continue to be known as a legend. There's even been a book written about her, and officially Alvarado confirms the execution happened locally and it's going to be in the historical memory of the region rather than it being recorded statewide. And coming up at 5:30, I'll have more on women executed after 1923. Reporting live in San Patricio, Victoria Valderrama, Chris 6 Sunrise.
Thank you very much, Victoria. And Chipita's story is so significant. A former TAM-UCC professor even made an opera about her story. His name is Lawrence Weiner. The drama was first performed in Corpus Christi in 1982. Weiner composed over 150 pieces in his career. According to womenintexas.org, many articles and books, as Victoria said, and operas were made about the hanging of Chipita.
And according to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, hanging was a means of execution from 1819 to 1923.
Then the state moved to the electric chair. Those executions were done in Huntsville.
In 1972, the Supreme Court declared all executions unconstitutional and they were stopped. The practice was reinstated in 1976 after challenges from some states, including Texas. In 1977, Texas moved to lethal injection as its means of execution.
And Texas is leading the nation in the number of executions. Also, California, Florida, Texas, and Alabama have the largest death row populations.
Now, your Chris 6 weather forecast.
All right, and a very good Wednesday morning, everyone. As we take a look at what we have going on outdoors, it's continuing to be a pretty cool start for us here as our latest frontal boundary came into the area and is allowing our morning temperatures to drop in the 60s. Our rainfall opportunity, even though we didn't get a whole lot here near the coastline, our inland communities certainly got quite a bit, averaging anywhere between 1 to 3 inches with some spotty locations around 3 to 6. So it was definitely quite the storm system that came by. But it's a quiet morning for us here. We have some broken cloud coverage over the coastal bend and still watching some visibility concerns down in Falfurrias. They're holding on to 2 miles, and that's just because they've got plenty of rain, so there's plenty of humidity in the air out there. Look at these temperatures. 66 officially out at the airport, 71 though off in Port Aransas, 68 in Aransas Pass, and holding on to the lower 60s for the inland areas. Right now the winds are mainly calm over the area, so that's pretty nice. Again, some broken cloud coverage. We were going to see those temperatures go back to the 80s this afternoon. It's going to be seasonal outside of a stray shower. We'll talk about the rainfall chances coming up in just a bit. Sierra.
Thank you so much, Juan. The time now is 5:08. A photography studio now needs help with recovery after a fire. We're going to tell you how to step up right here on Sunrise.
You're watching Chris 6 News Sunrise.
You certainly are, and happy Wednesday, everyone. You could hear that fire. Now, this is just a devastating scene in Corpus Christi as a well-known photography studio was destroyed by that blaze. And we're talking about Fonzie Munoz's photography studio on Everhart Road near Lamont Street. The building, including all of his camera equipment and backdrops inside, were destroyed when a blaze broke out early Tuesday morning. Since then, family, friends, and even classmates have offered a helping hand to get Munoz back to business.
I'm just so brokenhearted that this has happened because of all the people that I know in this industry, very few are cut from the same cloth Fonzie is.
We're like one big family, and if somebody falls down, we absolutely want to pick them up and help in any way possible. And so it was just immediate. I just wanted to reach out to him. Is there anything I can do for you? Do you need my studio? Do you need my equipment? Do you need anything? I'm more than happy to help.
And as you can imagine, Munoz is just brokenhearted about this. He didn't want to go on camera, but he did say he was able to recover about 90% of his hard drives that were in the studio at the time of the fire. Now, there's been a GoFundMe page created to help with recovery, and you could find a link on our website. The cause of the blaze is still under investigation.
A6 investigates follow-up for you this morning on the continuing saga of the Nueces County Medical Examiner's Office. Another candidate to replace the former ME turned down the job offer. Dr. Timothy Fagan, who works in the Travis County Medical Examiner's Office, is now the second person not to accept this position. It was last week when Chief Medical Examiner Adele Shaker resigned from his job at the county after being arrested on 17 felony counts of violating the Texas Occupational Code. The county's former ME, Ray Fernandez, will fill in for 30 days. The county also hired a search firm to find someone to perform autopsies on a temporary basis while they look for a permanent replacement. And the owners of a Rockport business are appealing the verdict in a lawsuit filed by their cousin, a Cambodian woman, claiming the couple brought her here to the U.S. and forced her to work for low wages. A few weeks ago, a federal court awarded Sophie Treadway a $1.8 million settlement against her cousins Matthew and Sophique Otero, owners of the Rockport Donut Shop. The lawsuit alleges Treadway was forced to work up to 19 hours a day to pay off a debt. Yesterday, an attorney for the Otero family said her clients disagree with the decision in this human trafficking case and intend to appeal. The attorney also mentions Treadway is under indictment in Aransas County on felony theft charges related to Rockport Donuts.
On the agenda for today's Nueces County Court Commissioner meeting is to discuss the allocation of American Rescue Plan funds as survivor benefits to the surviving spouse of former Nueces County employee Raul Salazar. Now, the American Rescue Plan provides funds that may be used to support survivor benefits for family members of COVID-19 victims. Salazar was a member of the Nueces County Sheriff's Office who lost his life to COVID in 2020. The total proposed benefit to be funded through ARPA is around $13,000, which represents 20% of Salazar's income over 18 months.
Now, your Chris 6 weather forecast.
All right, and we've had an interesting weather ride over the last 24 to 36 hours with some of the coastal bend getting some rainfall and some others not so much. But that storm system that brought the rain chances is now exiting off to the northeast, and we're just going to be left with our typical South Texas weather pattern. Get used to the warm temperatures and the windy conditions to return. But right now it's pretty calm outdoors. So you can see a couple of those broken clouds over downtown Corpus Christi and Corpus Christi Bay. We're at a very nice and comfortable 66 degrees for us, and a northeasterly wind still on tap at only 5 miles per hour. Those will eventually turn more east-southeasterly for today, and humidity is slowly going to start to be on the rise, but almost into the upper 50s. It's 61 right now over in Beeville, off into Refugio as well, holding on to the lower 70s from Port Aransas down to the Naval Air Station with mid to upper 60s over a good portion of the region. So as we take a look at the hour-by-hour forecast for today, outside of a stray little sprinkle here or there, it's just not going to be a whole lot of rainfall activity over the area for today, as we're definitely going to see more into the way of sunshine out there. And you can see with the partly cloudy skies, at times mostly cloudy, we're still going to manage the lower 80s this afternoon. That's fairly seasonal for this time of year, with those east-southeasterly winds hovering right at around 15 to 20 miles an hour. So with the extra sunshine, again, we'll be looking for those middle to upper 80s for the inland communities from George West and Three Rivers down towards Alice and into the coastal areas, about 80 off in Aransas Pass, 78 in Port Aransas, and about 83 degrees here in Corpus Christi. That's right around that average high for this time of year, which is about 84. The marine forecast is getting better, but the bays are still going to be slightly with that breeze. The sea's 3 to 5 feet, and the rip current risk has gone down to low. Not on the non-existent side, but again low. As far as high tide, Bob Hall Pier at 142, over in Port Aransas at the jetty at 203, and then later on this evening for Nueces Bay and Packery Channel. Just use caution out there. Again, a few clouds over the region. High pressure is centered up to the north of us, and our weak front that brought the rainfall chances now well off into the Gulf of Mexico. However, high pressure is in control at this point, and so we'll eventually see return flow. But right now, temperatures are into the 50s and 60s, almost uniform over the Lone Star State because of the high, and you can see it right there. A lot of that moisture that we were dealing with is now off to the Gulf, some of it lingering off into the Sierra Madre. That's why we'll hold on to a stray opportunity for a sprinkle, and it's showing it here on the long-range future tracker as we head into the afternoon. But again, this is just going to be very, very stray in nature. Overall, as we head on into Thursday, on into Friday, the rainfall opportunities and upper level lows stay up to the north of us, so rainfall chances up in northeast Texas over the weekend. And then another storm system enters the northern parts of the state as we head into early next week. And again, that could throw a couple little stray showers in our direction, but for the most part, we're going to continue to stay dry and windy as well. So 83 today, 68 and 86 tomorrow. We continue to get warmer with more humidity on into the weekend. And then as we head into early next week, those winds will gust even stronger with highs near 90 degrees. Sierra.
Thank you very much, Juan. Bill Witt Park on Yorktown over on Corpus Christi South Side will get some much needed TLC. A citywide parks master plan reveals Bill Witt will get an aquatic center, which would be the only one in this district. And it's going to offer swimming lessons. This area falls under Councilman Gil Hernandez's jurisdiction.
It's important that we, actually have a plan. That way we utilize and spend money wisely in accordance with the plan.
Bill Witt will also get upgrades to the soccer, baseball, and kickball fields. The council is expected to have a final vote on the master plan for the park next month.
Kickball field, that always was a fun one as a child. Well, this morning we're hearing reaction from the Tolosa Midway community about the hiring of the school district's new superintendent. Now, board members named Steve Van Matry, that's not him, to the job Monday night. Now, he's credited with saving Fremont ISD from being shut down by the state and growing enrollment. TM ISD board president says that Van Matry achieved success by improving curriculum, programs and facilities, and student opportunities, something he expects to do for Tolosa Midway ISD. Now, a couple of parents we spoke with say they're encouraged by the hire.
They're supposed to do some changes, that's what I understand.
I felt that they would replace him with a good person, and I think they did good.
Van Matry's first official day on the job at TM ISD superintendent is June 6th. Still to come, multiple legal battles over immigration taking place in Washington, D.C. Right now, we hear more about the Biden administration's push to end the Remain in Mexico policy. We've got that and much more coming up right after this.
You're watching Chris 6 News Sunrise.
Welcome back in, Coastal Bend, and happy Wednesday. Time now is 5:23. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court began hearing arguments regarding the Biden administration's push to end the Remain in Mexico policy on Tuesday.
And there's a separate legal fight over the pandemic rule known as Title 42. Natalie Brand reports from Capitol Hill where federal lawmakers are weighing in.
A key immigration policy under former President Trump returned before the Supreme Court Tuesday.
Safe, not stranded.
The Biden administration is arguing they have a right to end what's been called the Remain in Mexico policy, requiring migrants at the southern border to wait outside of the United States while their asylum claims are heard.
DHS detains tens of thousands of individuals on any given day. Respondents' interpretation that would remove any discretion would mean that DHS can't take account of that limited capacity in making prioritization decisions.
Texas and Missouri sued to keep the program in place, arguing that ending it would violate federal immigration law passed by Congress.
The Biden administration, just like the rest of us, have to follow federal law. They either have to detain them or send them back to their country of origins.
Meanwhile, a separate legal battle is underway over Title 42, which allows border officers to turn away most migrants seeking asylum because of the COVID-19 pandemic. President Biden wants to wind down Title 42 next month, though a Louisiana federal judge has said he'll temporarily block that, siding with a Republican-led challenge.
We'll have a temporary restraining order that gets us to May 13th. May 13th will be the hearing on the preliminary order that we hope to obtain as well.
On Capitol Hill, opposition to the administration's push to end Title 42 has some bipartisan support.
With the health crisis, we can't take any more chance of people coming undocumented and unchecked.
Some Republican lawmakers have called for a Title 42 amendment to be added to any attempt to pass additional COVID-19 aid. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Well, a new report from the CDC suggests the number of COVID cases were higher than what was documented because people either didn't realize that they had it or it went unreported. Researchers looked for antibodies made from infections in more than 200,000 Americans. They found 58% of all Americans showed prior virus antibodies in February. They also found 75% of children 17 and under showed antibodies in February as well, which is up from 45% from December. The CDC estimates that the recent months there were 3 unreported COVID infections for every 1 case.
And children who are given antibiotics early in life could have lower vaccine responses and antibody levels. That's according to New York researchers who compared vaccine antibody levels of more than 300 children aged 6 to 24 months. Those babies who had received antibiotics, they found that the children were more likely to have a greater reduction of antibody levels. The study also found that children in daycare settings were more likely to have taken antibiotics.
All right, everyone, it's 5:27. Time to take a look at traffic as we take a live look over on into SPID eastbound and westbound lanes. A little bit busy out there on this Wednesday morning considering the hour right now, but everything is flowing smoothly out there. Even some of the access roads are a little busy. As far as visibility is concerned, it has improved greatly over in Falfurrias. We still have plenty of humidity in place, but overall the visibility is looking pretty good. So we take a live look over into Beaver, 181, 61 degrees. It's pretty quiet out there though. Everything's pretty quiet over in Kingsville, looking at Highway 77. Northwest Boulevard in Calallen has a couple of cars out there, and into downtown Corpus Christi, everything is still pretty quiet out there. It's the latest look at traffic. Stay with us, folks. You're watching Sunrise.